Sean. So last night we watched the Miami Dolphins get dismantled by the Buffalo Bills. Conversations about the Bills that we're going to have in a second have gotten swept under the rug a little bit because of the reactivated discussion about player safety and what happened with Tua. They're down, it's 4th and goal, or they're in the red area. He's trying to convert. He scrambles upfield, and instead of sliding, he leads with his head. He makes contact with Damar Hamlin's chest, of all people, which is really weird cosmic irony for it to have played out that way. And he goes down in that same scary position where he can't control his limbs, and he was removed from the game. And the game was over at that point and was definitely over after he stepped out. I think one thing, and I almost don't even really feel like talking about this, but with the amount of overreaction to it, I feel like a discussion is warranted with two former college football players to talk about. A lot of people are saying that Tua should be forced to retire and that he should not be playing, that the NFL and the Dolphins need to step in and that they can't let this guy go back out there. I think that there's only one right answer to this, and I was listening to First Take this morning, and Ryan Clark had that right answer. Being a guy who played in the NFL for a long time and who said that he suffered more concussions than Tua did at this point to where Tua's been in his career. That right answer was, it's Tua's decision. If you're his family and if you're Tua, you absolutely should be considering stepping away from football. 1,000%. This is a scary situation that it should be considered. But that decision shouldn't be taken out of his hands. He should go and meet with doctors. He should go and meet with neurologists. The Dolphins should provide him with all of the support in order to figure out the severity of his mental situation, which I understand is hard to evaluate. But as Ryan Clark was saying this morning, it's not up to anybody else to make that decision. There have been far worse and far more significant historical situations of guys that played positions that took a lot more contact in an era where the helmets were just pieces of plastic, basically buckets on these guys' heads.
Bucket, yeah.
Guys that were really seriously destroying their brains, and there was no concussion protocol. Joe Namath's a great example of somebody who talks about the amount of times that he just got right back up and went back into games. And he's not exactly in the best state. And I was listening to some clips of him on actually Howard Stern's show talking about his recovery and making sure that his brain is good. But outside of that, it's up to him in this modern era where quarterbacks are more protected than they've ever been. And he continues to have really bad luck with his head contact. And it's only going to get worse because the more concussions that you have, the increased severity and the increased ease of getting them. But it is Tua's decision. I really hate how oftentimes media folks and people in general, it's always meltdown, meltdown, meltdown. This is the end of the world. This is so terrible. This is so horrible. It's bad for the game. It's a bad look. It's part of the game. It's part of the game. It's something that you and I signed up for. You more than me being an offensive lineman that probably took tons of head contact that is repeated culmination of those incidents of trauma. But it's football. It is up to Tua to make this decision. Stop acting like that this is some serious political issue that requires intervention from some outside entity to make the decision for him.
I don't like when people, I don't like the reaction that people are basically at this point begging to see a player retire because they want to protect the concussions and they want to take the hitting out of the game. It's a barbaric game. It's a game for gladiators. It is a sport with collisions. It is a sport where if you get hit in the head, it also impacts you differently. CTE impacts every individual differently. That's why we're still learning about it. That's why every person has different measures that they need to take. You can see a 70-year-old lineman speaking as fluently and as nice as cogently as he can, and you can see a 50-year-old wide receiver that didn't get hit as much, and maybe he's having a rougher time. It affects everyone differently. Everyone wants the game to be as safe as it can, but it needs to be safe within the game itself. You cannot keep changing the game, and then it just doesn't become football anymore. It is ridiculous. And what did you said we signed up for something. You ripped your freaking pec off your chest, and I got a cartilage defect in my arm, and that's something that if you said, all right, you're going to play 4 years of college football at the end of this is what's going to happen to you, I'd say I'm still signing the paper saying deal. It's fine. My elbow it's probably not going to be as great as it ever is. Not going to get that full extension. You'll probably not going to be able to get 275 on the bench again. These are just the trade-offs that you have of playing the gladiator sport. That's what it is. And the gladiator makes the decision on if he wants to go in the arena. We've had players quit mid-game. We've had players quit whenever they want to quit. It's still up to them. And sometimes they get criticized for quitting when they do.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck made a decision. He got lambasted. It was a bad decision at the wrong time. Sua Cravens got crushed for when he quit in Washington. But he still made the decision. And there wasn't a bunch of cheering for it. There wasn't people celebrating it as, oh, he was at his prime. We didn't get to see what he did. Pick a side. And also, fans don't get to choose. You don't get to. You're not allowed.
No. Well, but that's the whole thing. Fans don't get to choose to have an opinion on this. That's my whole point. The decision is on the bearer of the risk. It is, and it's to what you said. The people that didn't play this sport, maybe they played a little bit in high school. I think those that did play in high school do have at least somewhat of an appreciation. Those that played in college and beyond absolutely do have an appreciation for this situation and what we're talking about here, going through getting hit every single day. If you don't understand the context of it, why are you trying to decide for said player? It is under their volition to put themselves through it. It 100% is. And I know that this is why those that haven't played, and you can tell, they're fear-mongers.
Yes.
Their reaction to it is fear-mongering to pitch this. This is violent. This is horrible. This is just such a terrible, bad thing. The sport exists. It exists, and it is an entertainment product that we're all tuned into. But more importantly, these players love playing it because it is an outlet for them to express their abilities and traits and skills and mental capabilities that is their strong suit. Tua keeps coming back. Tua's not showing up after those concussions that he had 2 years ago because he wanted the money. He showed up because he loved the damn game.
Yeah, he's a competitor. It's the sport for the ultimate competitor. And to try to just keep on watering it down to the mediocre competitor, this discourse is what has kind of become wrong with sports media surrounding football, where it's just the nerds making the decisions for the jocks. But what do? You don't go out to watch the nerds play the sport. You go out to watch the big, strong men that can jump 40 inches in the air. I want to get to Jamie's question. Did either of you have concussions in your playing days? What kind of impacts did you have? Yeah, I had a good amount. I had a couple times I got clubbed in the side of the head. Janetti he was taped up on his wrist, and he swung around and did like a spinning back fist, and I had the Modern Warfare 2 flash grenade sound, and I was seeing in black and white for a couple seconds, and then I got back to the line. And yeah, sometimes at night the lights are a little sensitive. And every player has the option to report a concussion. I've seen plenty of guys that say, hey, you know what, I'm not feeling right. Get me off, or get me off the field, not get me off. I haven't had any necessary impacts, I'd say, to the current day. I think my memory is still sharp. I may have impeded it with some other stuff over the years, but for the most part, I think the concussions have held up. My granddad played college football. My dad played college football. They're both very sharp, so I might just be in the lucky group where you could still have conversations in your mid-80s and you could still be a successful person in your late 50s. And I'm holding up okay. But I know some people were just like, I'm not doing this. My head hurts all the time, and I'm not going to play anymore.
I less in college because I definitely got hit in the head a number of times in college running out on punt. Like, got some big pops, but like nothing that I had to like really come out for. There was one play against JMU of all teams where I remember one of the types of punt returners that I hated going up against the most, or guys on punt return I hated the most, were the offset linebackers that would stand like 4 yards off the ball that would run full speed at me and then didn't try to block me after. They would just run full speed at me to try to like really just pop me and see if there was an intent there. It's like, can we possibly get this guy off kilter for the rest of the game?
Get a bad snap out of him if we really light him up.
Yeah, and JMU, there was this one in particular play where I remember I got whacked. Like he just like full head on head. There was no punch and drive. It was like a full head on, and that was the last play of the game. I felt like shit after that. The Merrimack game, I had a couple times where I got dropped on the ground. Like I just got slammed in the ground and landed on my head. High school, I had 2 reported ones though. So like I've been hitting the head quite a bit, not as much as you probably, but it is to understand what it does to you. Yeah, there's plenty of times where like I'm extremely forgetful. And I do sometimes wonder myself, is this from getting those concussions or is it just because it's my personality? I hope it's not something that deteriorates. It's frightening. It certainly is frightening when you realize that you can be extremely forgetful and your lack of ability to maintain your attention span has deteriorated since it was when you were younger.
The cold truth of it, though,
we signed up for it.
Yeah, the cold truth of it is that football players will continue to not report concussions because they don't want to get off the field, because they don't want to lose their roster spot. They will continue to do that.
And also, too, I think a lot of times you don't know if you have one. Like sometimes you just get your head hurts and you're just like, I got hit in the head. Like it's fine. Like I can keep scope of what's happening in front of me. I'm not coming off this field. Like,
we both grew up like you got your bell rung, or if you're, even in youth football. Okay, did you just get your bell rung, or let's break out the flashlight, see what's going on with the eyes, and see if you're really loopy and out of it. If you're really loopy and out of it, definite concussion, bell rung. That comes with the sport of football.
All right, I want to spend a little more time talking positively about the Bills and not wasting our energy with this overreaction to Tua's situation. Actually, wait, we need a final thought here with Tua. If I was him, like in all seriousness, if I was him, I think he should probably step away. Like I think that with the scaring, this isn't me telling him to do this and that it needs to be enforced upon him to do it. But if I was sitting in his situation, someone showed me that clip and sitting and looking at, I don't know if he has a girlfriend or a wife, looking at the potential of like how this is going to impact me down the road, I think it would be worth considering him stepping away.
I always get a little bit. The only time I get real skittish is when I see the arms go limp or stiff.
That's where it got frightening.
That's the one that does scare me when I see it on the football field. And I got a pretty high tolerance for the hits. We've seen people break their arms, break their legs. Like we've seen it, but that one always freaks me out. I think that if his head feels fine, then he can come back if he wants to. I think he should. He's a good quarterback. He can help the Dolphins. In my opinion, I don't think it's necessarily walk away time yet.
Well, that's also what's
it's just a bad decision on the football field to lead with his head. Right. And all we heard about was his training, and he was doing it was either taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, where he would land softer. And we saw examples of it last season where he was rolling softer and he was being more cognizant of protecting his head, but he made a bonehead decision to extend with the head, and he rammed right into an NFL player's torso. It's going to end well. It's going to end poorly if you do that. And we're going to see rookie quarterbacks this year. We're going to see a rookie quarterback this year dive with their head, and they're going to get knocked out of a game. And it's the growing pains of football. And he made a bad decision. And if he wants to just chalk it up as that's a bad decision, I got to be smarter about it, then fine, come on back.
His volume of head injuries too is actually not that high compared to some other guys that they've dealt with, and some have stepped away around that that amount that he's reached. So we'll see what he ends up deciding to do. I think the Dolphins should be aggressive. I know it's week 2, but they need to be aggressive in trying to trade for somebody.
Do they want Kirk?
Not knowing. Well, who the first guy that came to mind was? I don't know what JJ McCarthy's recovery timetable is or the Vikings' desire to be competitive right now. I would go get Sam Darnold. Man, Sam Darnold looked great in that game because who else comes to mind? Jameis Winston's not going to get given up because I'm sure that they're monitoring the current situation with Deshaun Watson, that he might be on the commissioner's exempt list if things pan out the way that the opposing lawyers are portraying the severity of the situation and the evidence that they have. So Jameis isn't gone. Like who else would be?
I'd pay Indianapolis $10 million right now for Joe Flacco. I'd pay $10 million for Joe Flacco. I'd pay $10 million if I'm Miami.
Much, but
I'd pay $10 million for compared to Skylar Thompson. I'd pay for Tyrod.
Wait, but I would say the Colts aren't going to do that though, because you looked at how quickly Anthony Richardson went down with an injury last year. That's why they brought Joe Flacco in. Is like, hey, we need somebody who is a good starter, that if we need to call on him, he can be, capable.
The Seahawks reamped with Sam Howell. I would.
That's a good one. Sam Howell's a good one.
I would take a flyer out on it. I'd take a flyer out on Joe Milton for that team and how much they want to throw
rookie deep. Quarterback. You're trying to go to the playoffs. You're not going to get a rookie quarterback.
Would you rather have Joe Milton or Skylar Thompson in that offense?
Skylar Thompson, because Skylar Thompson's been in the dude.
I'd say we're go ball team, and this is Joe Milton. I don't need.
You can't run anything else then.
I think he could throw to Devin Achan in the slot or in the flat.
Wait, not a bad option. Jacoby Brissett. Actually, that's within the division, the rivals. Never mind. Forget it. That was a stupid pitch.
Jamie's pitching Trey Lance.
I mean, the Fitz McDaniels
that's fine.
scheme.
I want to see Trey Lance get a legit shot. I kind of do.
I don't hate Trey Lance, actually, Jamie. I actually kind of like that one. I think that's I know people might poo-poo that, but he's not going to start anytime soon for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I would take a flyer out on every capable backup quarterback if I'm Miami.